More severe weather is on its way as we go further into June here for portions of the northern plains. We're watching out for some supercells and large squall lines at least for the next 72 hours. K values are expected to get over 5,000 joules per kilogram as a result of the summer heat here, and it's going to continue to increase as we go throughout the week, really increasing the threat for severe weather as we go into the day 3 time frame. As well, really watching out for a ton of shear coming from the northwest in that strong low jet here that's going to be really allowing for some extremely favorable severe weather, and as well in general a very widespread slight risk from the storm prediction center from day 1, and as well day 3 we have a shocking large enhanced risk already, 30% chance sig for severe weather. So very interesting here for day 3. We're going to be looking at the timing and the location throughout this video, but without further ado, let's get in the forecast. So here's looking at the day 1 storm prediction center update here for today. So we do have only a slight risk. We're not really watching out for an enhanced probability for today, but we're definitely keeping a very, very close eye on day 3, and we'll be going in that just within the next few minutes here. But as of day 1, we do have a slight risk for around 500,000 people here, 526,000 going all the way from the Canadian border all the way down to areas like Nebraska and almost nearly touching Colorado state lines there. But Rapid City, South Dakota, Dickinson, North Dakota, Scottsbluff, Nebraska, Willingston, North Dakota, and Spearfish, South Dakota, you guys are under this slight risk for today, and it's very, very widespread marginal surrounding that across Montana, down to Colorado, Kansas, and getting nearly near the Minnesota border. And this includes areas like Billings, Montana there, and as well near Scottsbluff, Nebraska. So really watching out as well for those general regions. So the main threat today will definitely be the wind and the hail. We're looking at possibly for a pretty intense squall line later this afternoon and evening for the area, but we still have a potent tornado threat, a pretty widespread 5% for the areas near the Canadian border, but it only includes around 111,000 people. So I mean, it's definitely, I guess, in a very, very rural area. I mean, we're considering areas in northern, northeastern Montana and northwestern Nebraska. Or sorry, not Nebraska, sorry, North Dakota. So we're obviously not really watching out for a big threat for extremely widespread tornadoes. We're going to be seeing maybe a couple, and those will mainly be in the very rural areas outside of large cities. So that's going to be the only good thing about this, but still 111,000 people are in this 5%, including Dickinson, North Dakota, Willingston, North Dakota, Glendive, Montana, and Sydney, Montana. So if you guys live in those areas, then watch out for some tornadoes scattered, maybe only a couple. So just keep a very close eye on that, because we could see a few embedded supercells in the early afternoon hours. And as well, we have a small 2% chance for tornadoes today across Dixie Alley. First time we've had a pretty widespread 2% or risk for tornadoes this in a while for Dixie Alley there. That's including Shreveport, Memphis, Jackson, Bossier City, and Pine Bluff. And that's what we do another widespread 2%. It's surrounding that 5%, so that's going to be going down into South Dakota. The wind threat here, it's going to be quite widespread. The reason why the slight risk goes all the way down across the plains is because of the wind threat. So this wind threat's going to be the most widespread because of how it's going to be such a large, intense squall line. So we're going to be seeing just overall some really intense gusty winds within this storm. So again, 500,000 people in that wind threat. Rapid City, Dickinson, Scottsbluff, Willingston, and Spearfish, you guys are located within that within that 50%. And then we had nearly a 0.2 million people in this 5% for winds today, including Memphis, Shreveport, Evansville, Clarksville, and of course we have Billings and Helena, Montana. And then the hail threat as well is quite widespread, but it's not the most widespread. But we actually do have a significant risk for hail today, and that's going to be for areas where we have near that 5%. So it's actually kind of nearly near that 5% chance for tornadoes. So if you guys are in that 5% chance for tornadoes, not only do you guys have the biggest threat really for tornadoes, but you also have a pretty big threat, and the biggest threat for hail, a 15% chance sig. So we can definitely expect possibly 2 to 3 inch size hail throughout the whole region. So significant severe only includes around 78,000 people, including Willingston, Nebraska, Glendive, Montana, and Sydney, Montana. So if you live in Willingston, Nebraska, and Sydney, Nebraska, you guys definitely have a pretty big day ahead of you guys compared to the rest in this risk here. So definitely keep a very, very close eye on that and have a plan in, and just make sure you have a plan in place here when it does come to the worst severe weather later today. And then the general 15% includes around 439,000 people. So it's not including all the 500,000 people. So Italy, the wind threat is the most widespread. And that does make sense. So 439,000 people in this 15%, including Rapid City, Dickinson, Scottsbluff, Willingston, and of course Spearfish. And then we have a pretty widespread 5% chance for hail, including around almost a million going all the way down in Kansas and Colorado. So literally going down across the plains, including Billings, Greeley, Bismarck, Cheyenne, and Minute. So yeah, we don't really have a big threat for hail in the Dixie Valley area. So here's now a look at the day 2. And let's now go ahead and look at the day 3, because obviously day 3 is quite significant, as we already know. So a very large, widespread, enhanced risk for day 3. I don't think many people expected this to have a day 3 enhanced risk. Yeah, we had a pretty widespread 15% for day 4, but boy, an enhanced risk for day 3. So the thing is, a moderate risk is definitely not out of the question. I mean, this severe weather can continue to upscale as we go within the next few days here by the time we get to day 1. So we definitely cannot keep this out of the equation. A moderate risk can definitely not be ruled out, since we already have a pretty widespread enhanced risk by day 3. And obviously this enhanced risk will continue to expand by today and tomorrow. So this enhanced risk includes around 235,000 people. So as you can tell, we have a very similar affected area for severe weather today. However, it's going to be a little bit more towards the east. So kind of more including the Dakotas instead of Montana there. So enhanced risk includes around 235,000 people, including areas like Bismarck, Dickinson, Pierre. So it is including both capital of the Dakotas, Pierre and Bismarck, and it's both Dickinson and Mandan, North Dakota there. The slight risk as well is quite widespread all the way from the Canadian border down into Nebraska, including around 500,000 people. Rapid City, Minute, Willingston, Spearfish, and Moss Cities, very similar areas that I'm talking about for today, are as well under that slight risk for day 3. And the Marshall's quite widespread, 640,000, including Grand Island, Nebraska, Kearney, North Platte, Aberdeen, and Gillette. So you see all the severe weather for day 3 is all aimed towards the northern plains and north central. We don't have a Marshall anywhere else other than this area. So all that severe weather is really mainly focused on this, and this will definitely be the big tornado day compared out of today to and day 3, which will be Thursday. I think definitely this is going to be the main day for tornadoes and just main day for everything. Definitely watching that maybe for 30% SIG, possibly for that hail. But there you see that 30% SIG, including that SIG actually includes 60,000 people, and of course it includes Dickinson, which as well is getting hit quite hard today. But 30% includes 238,000, Bismarck, Mandan, Dickinson, and Pierre. But let's now go ahead and get a look at the models. So let's go ahead all the way and scroll into now the next few hours here. So as early as the next few hours here, this will be 6 o'clock Central, and this will be 5 o'clock Mountain Time. We're going to start seeing a few storms popping off there across South Dakota, and these storms will start to form there in eastern Wyoming. And by the time they move easternly into the Dakotas and Nebraska, is when that squall will definitely start to rapidly increase in strength here and become a lot more organized. So let's actually go and base relativity real quick here, so you can kind of see we're going to be seeing some cells there across Wyoming and South Dakota by around 7 o'clock Eastern. But once we now get quickly into down 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, and 8 o'clock Mountain Time, we're going to be seeing a very intense squall line here all the way from western South Dakota, southeastern Wyoming, and portions of western Nebraska and western North Dakota. But like I did say, we're watching out threat maybe for some embedded supercells that could very well be tornadic within northeastern Wyoming and northwestern North Dakota. So really watching out maybe in the late hours, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock for these regions between Mountain and Central Time. We're watching out possibly for some tornadic supercells across that region there, near Dickinson there. So really watching out for that region. But then on the other hand, we're having a very widespread wind threat down here across portions of western South Dakota, western Nebraska, and eastern Wyoming. And there is we're going to be seeing a very intense wind as well. Some pretty large hail. By the time we get past midnight, this whole squall line will rapidly fall apart here. And then, of course, because he's at some more severe weather down there near Kansas tomorrow in the late morning. But let's not go ahead and skip. Let's go ahead and skip Wednesday here. Wednesday obviously only has a marginal because he has some few scatter storms there near Montana. Let's not go all the way down into Thursday here. Thursday obviously is the main day. So we get to around 6 o'clock here, already getting some supercells developing there across portions of Montana. And then by the time we get to already 8 o'clock, that's when we're possibly watch out for these supercells starting to develop. So it's going to be mainly a big overnight threat. So this will be 8 o'clock Eastern, so 6 o'clock Central, no, 6 o'clock, sorry, Mountain, and 7 o'clock Central. So plenty of time here to watch out for these to quickly become supercells by the time they get into this area here. But let's not go ahead and look at the K values and all the way into this, all the conditions in general. Let's not go ahead and get a look at the helicity so we can get a better idea how much energy and just a stored amounts of potential energy is within this region here, specifically within these specific cells, so we can kind of get a better idea which areas are going to be possibly the main area to watch out for both day 1 and day 3. Obviously, we already have our main areas because of the SPC, but just going ahead and look at the helicity here. So we're not going to be seeing any helicity really popping up within these cells until around 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock Central. So we're going to start seeing already some numbers there up to possibly 350 meters square per second squared there across South Dakota. And you're going to start seeing these numbers popping off across Wyoming, because obviously the main cells will develop in Wyoming but won't become much stronger until they get into South Dakota and Nebraska. And that's obviously when we will see that large squall line. So they can see that squall line kind of developing across that region. And that's why helicity numbers aren't that high, only around 300, maybe 350. None of them are getting really over 400. But those cells up there near that tornado threat are a lot higher, because obviously the more, obviously supercells and tornadic supercells will obviously have a lot higher helicity than regular old squall lines. So we're actually going to get up to nearly 617 meters square per second squared up there in northwestern North Dakota there, where we do have that 2% and 5% chance for tornadoes. And it's going to continue to increase there at 653. So really watching out for North Dakota and Wyoming for that tornado threat and those higher helicity values. Let's go to 0 to 3 kilometers. We're obviously going to get a little bit higher numbers as we go into the higher atmosphere. So again, going to start really getting those numbers popping off there across South Dakota and Wyoming. Those will be the first helicity numbers that we actually have to pay attention to. You can kind of see already getting up to nearly 600 meters square per second squared, but as you now look at North Dakota, getting up to 1,400 meters square per second squared, and as well up into northeastern Montana, getting up to 700, 800 meters square per second squared. So it's exactly where I'm going to be really watching out for that tornado threat today. And let's now go all the way up into now Thursday, which will obviously be the main day. So by Thursday, this is the early morning hours. So let's now go to around 5 o'clock Eastern. So 5 o'clock Eastern, this will be around 3 o'clock Mountain Time and 4 o'clock Central. So not going to be seeing those storms popping off. But as we now get to 8 o'clock Eastern, so 7 o'clock Central, already starting to get some helicity numbers across Wyoming and Montana there, up to maybe 350 to 400 meters square per second square. So obviously the storms will fire off in these states, Wyoming, Montana, but really won't become supercells or severe in general until they get into the Dakotas and portions of the northern plains. Let's now go ahead and look at the K values, because boy, the K values are a big factor into why the severe weather is such a high risk already by day 3, and the reason why we're watching out for some widespread multi-day severe weather. So the temperatures are getting up into the triple digits across these regions here. So K values are going to be skyrocketing up into the 5,000 plus joules per kilogram time, number wise. So ready within the next few hours, we're already expecting over 3,500 joules per kilogram into the late morning hours. Or obviously right now it's only 9:49 Mountain Time and only 10:49 Central. So already seeing over 3,000 joules per kilogram in the late morning, and now by the next 4 hours, getting up to now 4,200 joules per kilogram. So boy, K values are already very high into the really late morning and early afternoon hours. As we now get to around 5 o'clock Eastern, so 3 o'clock Mountain Time, we're going to start seeing those storms maybe developing, but overall it's not all the way to the point where we're watching out for those really widespread storms, but already getting up to around 4,700 joules per kilogram up there near North Dakota and portions of South Dakota. By the time we actually start seeing that severe weather across portions of Wyoming there, it'll only be around 1,300, maybe 2,000 joules per kilogram. And then these storms will start going into a favorable atmosphere with possibly anywhere from 2,000 to maybe anywhere from 4,000 joules per kilogram. But the main area to really watch out is portions of northwestern North Dakota and northeastern Montana, because by the time we get into the evening hours, getting over still 4,500 joules per kilogram, and it's exactly really be watching out for that high helicity, high amount of shear, and as well that threat for some tornadoes. But really high K values, believe it or not. I mean, really high. I mean, look at tomorrow here. Tomorrow getting up to possibly 5,300 joules per kilogram down there in Kansas. Let's not go all the way up now to Thursday here. By Thursday, already at 1 o'clock Eastern, and this will be 12 Central, already getting over 4,300 joules per kilogram down there in Kansas and Wyoming. But by still 12 o'clock, still getting already over 3,000, maybe nearly 3,500 to almost 4,000 joules per kilogram across portions of the north central plains. As we now get later into around 8 o'clock, so 7 o'clock Central, we're getting extremely high K values all across the south and all across the central plains there, up to nearly 5,500 joules per kilogram. But the main area to watch out is going to be really across the Dakotas there. As we go deeper into the next few hours, these numbers will definitely increase for South Dakota and the Dakotas. So we're talking possibly over 4,000 joules per kilogram for the main time frame for Thursday. Let's not go ahead and look at the shear values. So obviously the shear is going to be very low right now. But as we now get later into the next few hours here, into the evening and almost overnight hours, we're going to start seeing a huge increase in shear between 0 to 6 kilometer difference. So we're seeing a pretty unstable atmosphere, specifically across portions of north eastern Montana and northwestern North Dakota. So that's another reason why we're watching out for some supercells here, because that's where we'll be seeing the most amount of shear. We're talking possibly up to 80, not the sheer difference between the surface and 0 to 6 kilometers. So I mean, we're talking a very widespread amount of shear down up there. So this is exactly why we're watching out for some tornadoes over here, and as well possibly some very, very large hail, where we had that 15% chance SIG. And as we can kind of see within that squall line, we're seeing a ton of shear there, possibly at the 50 to 60 knots. And that's exactly why that wind threat is going so far down. Let's now go to Thursday here as well. Thursday is just going to be overwhelmed with shear throughout the whole day. Look at all of this shear left for Thursday. So Thursday's going to be seeing a ton of shear early on, even into the 8 o'clock time frame. So that's Eastern. So 6 o'clock Mountain Time, already getting up to possibly nearly 110 knot difference between the surface and 6 kilometers. So it's absolutely crazy. So I mean, Thursday's just looking extremely favorable. We have a ton of shear, a ton of K bags. I mean, it's looking pretty good in general. Let's now go ahead and look at the supercell composite parameter for today. So we're not expecting that many supercells, and if we are expecting supercells, they will be maintaining themselves in Montana and North Dakota there, getting up to a 20 up there in northeastern Montana, and up to a high teens and lower 20s across northwestern North Dakota. As we get to around 8 o'clock Central, that number will gradually increase up to around a 40. So we are definitely watching out for some very widespread supercells within North Dakota and Montana state lines. We have obviously a lot lower threat down there for South Dakota, Nebraska, and Wyoming, because obviously that's where we're seeing that squall line. Let's now go all the way up now to tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, watching out for some supercells across Montana. A little bit lower threat, though, maybe not getting higher than possibly a 16 or 18. And let's now go all the way up into now Thursday, all the way by 7 o'clock Central, already getting up to a 30 plus there across Montana and North Dakota, as well up to over some teens there. But you're going to start seeing a huge line of supercell numbers increasing, but by the time they get to South Dakota and North Dakota, they're going to be really high. But obviously, we have to wait possibly till tonight to get the whole outlook for Thursday. And let's not go ahead and look at the significant tornado parameters. So obviously, we're not looking at very widespread tornadoes, but we definitely do have some pretty high numbers, though, all the way by already possibly 6 o'clock, so 5 o'clock Mountain Time, already up to as high as maybe a 7 across Montana, maybe a bit widespread 5 there across North Dakota, and a widespread 3.5 across portions of South Dakota. But the main area to watch out for tornadoes is going to be right here, in my opinion. So watching out for Lake Dickinson there. As we now get to around 7 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, getting as high as nearly a 9.8 there for East Central Montana, and as well getting up to another area of over 7 and northeastern Montana and getting some widespread 4s to 6s across portions of north central North Dakota. But as we now get later now into around 9 o'clock central, getting a huge number over an 11 for North Dakota, and as well portions of northeastern Montana to get over a 7. So definitely watching out for some tornadoes today. And as we now go later into now 8 o'clock on Thursday. So this will be 7. No, this will be 6 o'clock Mountain. Sorry, 6 o'clock Mountain. Already getting up to possibly nearly 6s or 7s. And the main area to watch out is going to be right here. So imagine how these cells gradually mature by the time they get to Pierre and Bismarck. And definitely it's going to definitely be concerning, because I think these STP numbers are already this high and the main storms really won't be here. It's definitely a concern at how big the STP numbers will be here, possibly over 10s across the region. And last but not least, let's go ahead and look at the widespread GFS here and the general GFS so you guys can get a better look at what we're expecting for Thursday. So overall, Thursday, you're going to start seeing the storms developing there across portions of Wyoming and Montana. And by the main time frame, it's going to definitely be a pretty big overnight threat here. We're going to be seeing a very extreme severe weather across Dakotas all the way down into Nebraska. But hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll have another video out later this afternoon on the tropics. But see you guys later.